It's 8 o'clock. Welcome to Tribe TV. So good to have you with us tonight. Please, if you're on Facebook, start a watch party. If you're on YouTube, share the link. Let's draw people into this content together. We are talking about certain leadership for uncertain times. How to walk with stability and strength and as much surety as you can muster in what is very unsure times. But we know God is strong and stable, and he knows what's in the future. He's there already. So if we can lead with him and follow him, then we can lead people with a sense of hope and a sense of faith. And so that's what we're doing. And these evenings, sometimes I'm showing you some of the questions that we get in the Global Leadership Tribe, and then how I kind of try and unwrap them a little bit and wrestle through some of the themes that are thrown at me, which I love doing. It keeps me on my toes. And I have this great question all about managing pace and communication in this time. How do we lead our churches through change? Because inevitably we are coming out into what some people don't like it, but call it the new normal. We're heading into new territory, one way or the other. Even if you are going to try and put things back roughly together as they were, you're going to find that things will have changed anyway. So change has been thrust upon us. So managing that change is a huge part of leadership, and we want to take everyone with us that we can. Everyone is precious, even though you know you won't be able to take everybody with you. And you know, these evenings, I'm talking in ways that you wouldn't normally preach. I'm talking really right from the heart about the nuts and bolts and the difficulties of leadership. So I might even say some stuff that shocks you. I'm really sorry, but this is real leadership now. Rubber hits the road stuff. So I hope it helps you if you're a leader. And then what we're talking about all week as well is how to join our Global Leadership Tribe as a group of 10 leaders. And if you do it together as a team, and there's a way you can manage it as a team, it becomes super cheap for everybody on the team. What a great time to give 10 of your top leaders input, access to 500 modules of teaching, our private social media groups, the Q&As, and how we can wrestle through stuff together. And I can advise you and help you in leading the church that God has called you to lead, even in these unusual times. So if you want to know about that, have a little look at the end. But let's get down to a question. Now, my reply to this question is probably a bit shorter than some of the other nights. It's only about 15 minutes long. And I mean, sometimes the answers to the questions are like 4 minutes long, but I'm not going to show you those. We've got loads of those online in the Tribe Zone. But this particular one, I spend about 15 minutes looking at managing the rate and the pace of change in a church in a time like this, and I hope you find it useful. But because it's a bit shorter, I'm going to give you a song straight afterwards too. I've got my little songwriting studio going here at the moment, and I did a little version of When I Survey, and I thought, well, I'll throw that out there. It might bless you. I mean, you do realize I used to be a worship leader, right? And then I ended up pastoring a church and doing loads of other stuff, but I love music and I love creativity. I find it keeps my heart sweet and worshipful. So, you know, if David could be king and still a musician, well, I can pastor a church and still be a musician too, I figure, right? So I'm going to play you a little version of When I Survey at the end of that. And then after that, we'll tell you about the tribe if you're interested in that. But have a little listen to this question and to my response. And I hope you find it useful in your managing of your pace and how you lead out of lockdown into breakout, right? And into the new things that God has got for us. Hey everybody, question from 3 of you here. That's pretty good, isn't it? They're all on a kind of similar theme, and I think it's coming from the outbreak to breakout stuff that we were doing. And of course we're all managing change at the moment, so this is all about managing change as leaders. And so similar questions from Angie, Peter and Rachel. Let's have a little look at these. Angie says, everyone's talking about change. How do you manage all the expectations from innovators through to the late majorities and not lose people along the way? I mean, yeah, that is a tough one, isn't it? I would say that communication is a huge part of our journey as leaders. And I always say to our guys that, listen, unless you've over communicated, you haven't communicated. You should feel like you're over communicating, you know, in person, one-to-one necessary, where you know that there are key influencers who are late adopters who are going to need that extra little thing. There are some people rightly or wrongly, that if they just hear it, announced on an email and there hasn't been the little bit of one-on-one or that phone call before the meeting, you've got someone with great magnetism and influence whose nose is put a little bit out there. So a wise leader is always thinking, who are my influencers? Who are my late adopters? Who are my early adopters? It's this communication thing. It needs to be planned. You don't just bung out an email. You're thinking, who needs to know what? How do I draw people on board? What can I have in terms of a consultancy in the build-up so that people are being brought into the message early, so they get to take the emotional journey with the group of leaders before we dump the news of a change on them. So there's a whole process that needs to be think about the emotional journey of those hearing the change that you're trying to bring. Give them the same time at it that you've had. Give them longer if you're a real easy early adopter, because they're just going to need to take that journey. Some want to hear it face to face, or if the best you can do is a phone call right now in lockdown. But high levels of thought through communication, especially about your key influencers who are slow to mid adopters. I've got early adopters, and I know they're just going to go whoa with everything that we announce. They go, yeah, sounds like a plan, let's do it. We like the fun of doing that. They're the easy ones. They'll get the email, watch the video on Facebook, and see the announcement in church and just run with it. You've got to know who your late adopter influencers are and give them time, okay? So pace that rate of change really well. I would say too, undersell and overproduce. I know you might be excited about the massive potential of a certain change, but don't overcook it, because it's kind of fun the first time you do it, but the sixth time around, people start to yawn every time you announce some great project that's going to bring revival. Much better to undersell, share the sense of what you're doing, and draw people into the journey. As well, think about the different communication techniques, those who like to see things, those who want to see a picture of the future. Even here's another church that's done a similar thing. Watch the video of how it's impacted their society. Some people like to read it. Some people want to know the theology behind what you're going to do. So you're going to have to get your teachers out and explain the Greek and the Hebrew and the biblical history of why what you're doing is good. So really communicate right across the board, not just to people like you, because the reality is probably 1/5 of people in your church are like you. Everyone else has got some other subtle way. The piece about over communicating, I remember being at a media conference in London years ago talking about communication, and I can't remember the guy's name, Peter Briley I think it was. He shared this great thought: communication is like a plane taking off. We think communication is done when the plane takes off. When we say it, we've communicated. Job done, tick. What's the next thing on my leadership list? The reality is you haven't communicated just because the plane's taken off. You have communicated when the plane lands. And in the reality of communication, the plane might have to take off 7 times or 10 times before it lands. Okay, so just communicate a lot, because some of them are going to get it the 3rd time they hear it, some of it the 5th time that they hear it. Some are going to hear it when it's turned into a story or an illustration or a video. Others are going to really hear it when they get the theology behind it and why Jesus would have done the same thing, right? You've got to find lots of different ways to communicate it thoroughly, using different voices too. When teams communicate, it can be so powerful. Take your time over communicate it. Don't try and turn a church around in a few days. Take some weeks to go deep into it, so you can go, right, every Sunday for these 6 weeks we're going to preach about the theology and the thought and the psychology behind our changes. We're going to talk about the sociology of it, the anthropology of it. I mean, you can go to town, right? We're going to tell stories and really just allow people to slowly be baptized in your changes, and they'll get it. Often leaders are disappointed that they don't, they launch something and it's not just pure excitement great after the service. A lot of people are slow burners, and so you've got to take them all with you. So over communicate it. Peter says this in a related vein: how do we manage the rate of change correctly? Well, rate of change, let's look at several factors here. Number one, there's you. What rate can you cope with? Are you tired? Are you fatigued? Are you trying to make big decisions while you're fatigued? Do you need to rest? I'm a classic rushing leader. I usually need to go slower than I want to. Okay, so I've learned the first thing to read is, okay, is this really urgent, or is that just the prophetic energy from my prophetic gift coming? But actually the pace needs to be thought about a little bit more wisely about my own life. And people like my wife, Vicky, help me with that as I go, where are we at in the pace of this? So there's you've got to look at your pace. Then there's your team. What can your team cope with? And that's down to their gifting, their maturity, whether they've done this before, what the level of trust are with you and your team and the rest of the church. If the trust levels are high, pace can be quick. There's lots of legitimate reasons why you go, trust levels are a bit low right now. We're a bit delicate. You might have, we've just fired the youth leader. We've just announced that we've had a deficit in our budget. You can have some difficult season in church life when you've had to shift on some staff or make a difficult financial decision, or you've lost a building, or there's some project not coming to fruition, and it erodes trust a little bit, or sometimes even a lot. That is going to affect your pace. The higher the trust, the less communication you'll have to do. You'll just say, this is where we're going, here's why. People go, okay, we're with you. Low trust, they'll be going, really? Not sure, And it doesn't mean they're bad. There's legitimate reasons to just feel a little bit wary about change. So you've got to lovingly, kindly, clearly take slower time over change if you're in a season when the trust is a little bit low because pain or difficulty has been a little bit higher in your church or in your team. Then you've got to look at your church itself. Is your church tired? How much change have they been going through already? Are they used to change? Is it a highly flexible, agile environment, or are they generally nothing to do with age, but actually to do with their church experience in the past? You can get some quite older people. I mean, some of my best early adopters are 60 plus, but they're so spiritually experienced. They're like, yeah, let's do it. Let's have a whirl. They know the world's not about to end if we try some project that doesn't work out. So sometimes experience can really work well if they're agile, flexible people. They're highly healthy. But I know there's plenty of people, and you can get a 22-year-old that's older in the brain than a 70-year-old. When people aren't agile and flexible, if they've been used to sitting in their patterns for a long time, it's going to take quite a while to work them out of it. And I often think of it, you go through a process of, if there was a fence post stuck in the ground, you wanted to pull it out. You wouldn't just walk up to it and pull, right? What would you do? You get the fence post and you go this way, then that way, then this way, then that way, and you'd move it back and forward until you flecked enough space to move it out and to lift it out. You might have to go through a pre-process of developing a flexible, agile church by just taking them through some small changes for change's sake, so that they learn that change is okay. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to destroy the church or the church finances. So you begin to make little changes building up towards big changes. So you could even head towards your plan in an incremental manner. If you've got a plan, can it be broken down into 6 stages across 1 year because you've got quite a late adopter congregation right now? Make that plan and take them with you super wisely, celebrating each win as you go. And they'll be learning, wow, change is fun. Wow, it gives me a little bit of adrenaline. They don't even realize it. The new things are beginning to literally rewire their brains as they do them. And so you can create ways to incrementally change, but you need to know your church. You really do. And then you'll be able to tell what pace can they cope with. Now, that doesn't mean that if anybody says anything negative, therefore you shouldn't do it. They're going to. I've learned a couple of things in life. Number one, if the devil got up and preached on Sunday morning, somebody somewhere in the church would go, oh, that was wonderful. It really touched me. That was anointed. Okay, that's how discerning some people are. Not everybody. Okay, but I guarantee it would happen. Okay, and then the second one is there are some people that will complain about anything because it's how they interact with the world. The drama queen, complainy. They're going to have a whinge and a mumble about things. And as a leader, it's your job to not be scared of their faces. You have to make that kind judgment, is we're moving from here to here, and I already try and work out in my mind who's going to have a whinge and a whine at me. I'm ready for them. I'm ready for them with love and oil. I'm going to give them that little bit more time if they're worth taking with us. Okay, you can't take everybody with you all the time. That's the third question. Rachel asks, how do we minister to those who don't get it and don't want to change? Is it possible to move in both John 21:16, tend my sheep, and John 6:67? Do you want to leave too? Yes, it is, but under the banner of the recognition of Jesus didn't take everyone with him, and you won't either. If you move your church at the pace of the complaining and the latest of late adopters, you will never move anywhere, because some people are simply just stuck and they won't move, and nothing that you can do or God can do will change them. They are stuck. Remember that. God is a perfect father. He has wayward children. Jesus was a perfect leader. He lost thousands because of the direction that he was to go in. So I always just think this. Am I communicating kindly? Am I moving at God's pace? Am I trying to draw them at a pace that they can cope with too and line it up with God's pace? Am I firmly but clearly communicating enough? If I've done everything that I can do to take people with me as a leader, understanding too that I'm an imperfect leader and so are you, but I've done everything I can within the realms of kindness, truth, love, faithfulness, the counsel of others to move people into the future, then I move forward and I don't worry too much about those that ultimately won't come. Because here's what happens. If you slow the whole church down to your latest of late adopters, you will lose your early adopters. You will lose the ones that are willing to be agile, flexible, and run in the things of God early, because they will just find church too boring. So you're going to lose someone. Why not lose the rebellious, the stuck, the backslidden? Don't worry about them too much. You know what you'll find? And I've found this again and again. I've had groups that leave my church. One year I had 150 people leave the church. You know what? The finances never changed. Didn't go down one bit. You know what I discovered? None of those metaphorical back row people were tithing. They were just whinging. What you'll find is the church is really built on your premiership. So the people that really want to move with God, okay, so run with them, care deeply for the middle group, give them extra time and extra communication, but also don't worry, realize there are some that will go. They'll go for a season and come back, or they'll go permanently, whatever. You cannot enforce that everybody goes with you. Even Jesus didn't, so we shouldn't try. So, but know yourself, know your team, know your people, be kind, but run with God, and just do your best. You know, usually more conversations, not less. I think a lot of teachers, the danger is, one of our scariest things in church leadership, isn't it, is tough conversations. Just sitting down with people that we know they're a little bit difficult. But I've sometimes found giving people that I don't quite get on with a little bit of extra time and really listening, and then they start to move with me. So don't be standoffish with all the difficult people. Try and give people a little bit of time when it's appropriate, and you'll find that some people will begin to shift. It's just some people haven't been listened to in years, and so spend some time to give time to those people that are a little bit stuck, and see you can take with you, but you won't take everyone with you. Yes, it's a massive time of change. God bless you with wisdom as we go through these immense changes. Take your people with you wisely, lovingly, but into exciting adventures in God. God bless you. Great questions.
When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of glory die, my richest gain. I can but love and pour content on all my pride. See from his head, his hands, his feet, sorrow and love flow mingled down. Did e'er such love or sorrow meet, or thorns compose, so rich a crown? Were the whole realm of nature mine, that were and offering far too small, love so amazing, so divine, deepens my soul, my life, my own. Love so amazing, so divine, demands my soul, my life, my own.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that and got something from it. I was talking from my book, The Leadership Quest, which you would actually get if you joined Tier 2 or 3 of the Leadership Tribe. And that's what we're talking about all this week, how a team of 10 can join the Global Leadership Tribe, which is the leadership side of our online learning community. And when you join together, it works out incredibly inexpensive, just £25 per leader for a year's investment, 500 modules of teaching, all sorts around theology, prophetic life, the supernatural, revival, growing in God, personally and growing as a leader, how to build church, how to build teams. It's all in there and so much more. And it's growing. That library is growing month on month. And we've got some exciting new stuff coming up too. As well as that, you get private social media groups where you can interact with other members of the tribe around the world, but also with Vicky and myself. There's questions and answers. I love to answer and to wrestle with the stuff that you're wrestling with and see if I can give you some perspective on it. So if joining the tribe as a team, and let's be honest, there's never been a better time for a team to be online learning together how to grow in the things of God, both leadership and the supernatural, and how to drive your church forward into growth together. So if that interests you, stick around. Let me tell you about the tribe. And if you want to come join our family, we'd love to be learning and growing together with you. What is the tribe, I hear you ask? Well, it's a global online learning community. There are loads of us around the world interacting, growing, stretching in the things of God together and having fun as we learn. There's 3 tiers in the tribe. Tier 1 is basic access to our tribe zone. It is an online learning zone. We use the same software as Harvard University, so it's great, it's powerful, it's intuitive, and it works really well on everything from a tablet to a phone to a laptop. And you can grow with us in the things of God over everything from leadership to church growth to faith, things of the Spirit, prophetic, the miraculous. It's all there. 500 modules of audio, video, e-courses and stuff like that. As well as that, you get a private Facebook group where you can interact with Vicky and I, and we can be growing in the things of God together. Tier 2 is all of that, but it's for leaders. It's our global leadership tribe. And so it has a lot more leadership content as well. You get 4 books the moment that you join sent to you, and then you will get every book I write in the period of your membership sent to you free of charge. We want to invest in leaders, and so it's much more interactive at Tier 2. Tier 3 is where 10 leaders in one team can join together so you can learn and grow. It is a brilliant resource to give to all of your team. You don't always want to lose them as they head off to Bible school. You want to train them right where they are in a training community, and that's what this is. So if Tier 3 interests you, have a little look at that. Let me show you some testimonials of what people are saying about their life and learning with the tribe.
Hey there, it's Roma Waterman here from Melbourne, Australia. I just want to say I'm amazed at the amount of resources that are in Tribe and the fresh content that's constantly being added. I say this with complete truthfulness. I think Pastor Jarrod Cooper is one of the best teachers in leadership and the prophetic and creativity that I have heard in the world. So I highly recommend it. I highly recommend that you sign up and be part of such an amazing community.
Hi, my name's Dave Mallender. I'm the pastor of Grace Church Bridlington, and we connected with the tribe because we knew a lot of the people and the voices that we heard were encouraging and inspiring, a lot of prophetic voices that helped us and guided us. It helped us to feel like we were part of the global picture and not just our little part of the jigsaw. But above all things, we learned 2 specific things: practical and spiritual. And the practical things, that we have taken principles from the tribe and applied them to our church, which means we manage it better, we present it better, we make it look better and sound better. And the practical principles have been brilliant, but there is also the spiritual principles of apostolic anointing. And as we've listened and applied spiritual principles into our church, we've actually seen the church start to grow. And we believe that we're about to hit the second wave of growth from connecting to the tribe. So we want to say God bless you. Thanks for doing what you're doing, and encourage you to get involved if you can with the tribe.
Hi, I love the tribe because it's a place of the prophetic. It's a place of fun, and with a healthy dose of the practical included as well. There's a whole wealth of resources on there that will keep you going for years, and on such a range of subjects that you could do Bible school in your pajamas if you wanted to. And where else could you get an international apostle like Jarrod answering your questions? It's just brilliant. So if you ever feel a bit like Elijah and thinking, oh, poor old me, I'm the only one left who's been zealous for God, then you can just log into the tribe community and discover, no, actually, God's reserved a whole remnant of people who are there, ready and waiting to encourage each other on and do great things for God's kingdom. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, come over and join us. It would be lovely to meet you.
Isn't that incredible? Head to jarrodcooper.net and come on, join this family of people growing in the things of God, growing in the Word, growing in the Spirit, and enjoying this journey of walking in God together. You don't have to be alone. You don't have to make it up as you go along. Come and join the tribe, and let's enjoy life together.